Daddy's Little Soldier is a foster care memoir from Maggie Hartley. This was originally released in 2019, and I've just reread it, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. It seemed like it was going to be a very predictable read. I'll be honest, I couldn't remember much from the first time that I read it. I could remember the basic narrative, but not the specifics, and there were a few things that I hadn't expected with this. Maggie is fostering a little boy called Tom, and Tom displays some peculiar behaviors. I don't want to go into too much detail about those behaviors because they kind of develop over time or they crop up over time, so I don't want to give away everything too soon. But basically, it's very clear that his father, who used to be in the army, has drilled into him this need for everything to be spotless, really tidy. He's got this strict regiment. It's clear that Tom hasn't really been allowed to be a child recently. And I say recently because this is quite a new development, and this is why social services came into his life because Tom started to change at school. He lost his mother just under a year ago, and his father left the army to raise his son. And his father's approach to parenting is very different to his wife's. But it's not just his approach to parenting that's different, because of course his father's grieving as well, but maybe not in a way that's very beneficial for anybody. And then the book really helps to explore grief and how people can respond to grief in different ways, but also the fact that what might be healthy for an adult or what an adult might choose to do with their grief may not be very good for a young child. And I think the book does a really great way of helping to highlight this. I think it might provide comfort for anybody going through something similar, but again, I think it will also provide a lot of useful information about, well, I don't want to say how to deal with a grieving child, as I think every case is different, but what may help a grieving child. And it is emotional. It is difficult to read at times, not just because of the grief, but because of Tom's behavior and the panic he has when when he gets dirty. He's really worried about this. And no child, I think he's 8 years old if I remember, no 8-year-old child should begin to panic and furiously polish their shoes for half an hour just because they got a bit of mud on them. There's a fine line between having a clean child and having a child with OCD, and this is kind of what we see the beginnings of here, but it manifests in other ways as well. And with Maggie's help, hopefully Tom can go back home and reconnect with his father in a way that's healthy for both of them. But there are times when his father doesn't make that easy, and it's not always clear where things are going. It's a very moving book. It's very eye-opening. I think, as I said, some people might be able to relate to the emotions of different characters, and I think it could be comforting to know that people go through similar things. And it's also hopefully very beneficial about how to approach those things. I really enjoyed it for the right reasons, to see that there is support, that there are ways of pushing past things, of helping people. But there are times when it's quite frustrating, when things are maybe not moving in the direction people want, and of course it's very emotional and quite upsetting. I do recommend it. It's maybe not the easiest read, but I think it's thoroughly worth it. And if I ever read it again in the future, I think it'll be worth it as well. Definitely a foster care memoir that I absolutely recommend.